Hello everybody, my name is Walter and this is episode 57 of my Redstone Command series. In this episode I would like to do two things. For one, I would give you some general information about Datapacks, and for the other I would like to show you a template for a simple Datapack that you can easily download if you want to create your own Datapack and you don't want to worry about getting the infrastructure and the folders correctly. So with that said, let's actually get started. So first things first, what are Datapacks? Well, they are folders or zipped folders with obviously some content that can be found within a world save and change the behavior of the game. This contrasts to so-called resource packs, which change how the game looks through textures and similar, but not how it behaves. The folder you will find in those is generally in the point Minecraft, saves, then your world name, and then the subfolder Datapacks. There are two ways to get Datapacks into a world. The first is doing world generation. Within the generation menu, you can select for more, and then you can drag and drop Datapacks right into the screen of the game. The second option is if the world is already existent, you can go into the edit menu, and here you can open the world folder and find the Datapacks folder, where you can then just simply copy in the Datapacks you want. Things concerning the behavior you can change are manifold. You can add or change advancements, you can manipulate loot tables, you can change recipes or add new ones, you can play around with functions and commands, you can add item modifiers, predicates, you can manipulate the world generation, and many other things. Now for the Datapack to actually work, it needs to follow a very basic structure. At the highest level, we have the folder or the zipped folder, which basically is just the Datapack itself. Below that, we have one mandatory file, which is the pack.mc meta file. This file explains the version of the Datapack and gives a description of the Datapack. The description is visible in the selection menu for Datapacks, and the version tells the game if the Datapack is still applicable to the current Minecraft version, which can be very important. For example, with the 1.21 update, many Datapack subfolders have been renamed and are no longer backwards compatible. Another thing you can have here is a pack.png file. This is an image file that gives an icon to display when you are in the selection menu for Datapacks. And then, and this is where the name Datapack comes from, you have a subfolder data. Below the data subfolder, you have further subfolders which define the so-called namespace. The default namespace is Minecraft. You can put a Minecraft folder in here, and anything you change in that may change already existing behavior. So if you adjust already existing tags, you can change how the game behaves in certain ways. If you give it a new namespace, then you are adding new behavior and not changing already existing behavior. The namespace folders themselves also have predefined names for their subfolders. Here just a selection of what I find the most useful, but there are many more, for example for recipes, loot tables and so on. If you want to have an overview over all of the current possibilities, I would recommend having a look at the Wikipedia article. Link for that is in the description. But let's go through the few examples I have here. So the one that I find personally the most useful is the subfolder function. Within this folder, you can find the .mc function files, which can be triggered via the function or the schedule commands and contain in themselves Minecraft commands. Within the structure folder, you can find the .nbt files, which are, for example, created within the structure blocks and contain saved structures, which can then be placed using the place command, for example, via a function. So you don't need to put together the structures yourself block by block, but can just save it and then load it in basically. Another subfolder you can find quite commonly is the tags subfolder. Tags I already explained in a previous episode, so I won't go into too much detail, but basically tags allow you to define a name under which you can refer an entire group of, for example, multiple blocks. And then later on, when you're checking for a condition, you can check whether the block you're looking at is within that group of blocks. There is one very special case, or two very special cases, and those are the Minecraft tick and the Minecraft load. So Minecraft in this case is the default namespace, And we have a tick.json file and we have a load.json file. I'll show you an example in a few moments. Those are extremely useful because the Minecraft tick function tag is called or triggered every single game tick. So if your Datapack needs to do something over and over and over every game tick, you can use the Minecraft tick function for this. If you want to do something just once after a reload or the opening of the world, then the Minecraft load is what you're looking for. This is only done once at the very beginning. There is one special case or one thing to keep in mind, and that is the Minecraft load is triggered before the chat window is active. So if you want to give the player a message, hey, I have this Datapack running, it won't be visible if you just give the message directly into the chat. You will have, for example, to use a schedule command or make a counter or something like that. And with that, we are already at the point where I want to show you the Datapack template I prepared for you, which you can easily download and modify for yourself. The link for that is in the description, but you can also directly open it from this world here by just clicking on the text here. And here we go. I've now opened up the Datapacks folder for my current world. And in here you can find, among other things, the Datapack template folder and the Datapack template.zip folder. If we go into the first, you can see we have our .mc meta, we have our .png, and we have the data folder. And if we go into the zip folder, we can see exactly the same. There is no intermediary folder level, which is very important because otherwise the game would not be able to interpret this as a Datapack. Very important to know about because it's very easy when you're zipping a Datapack to, well, get this intermediary level. With that out of the way, let's actually have a look at the content here. So we have, first of all, our pack.mc meta file. If you look in here, we have a certain JSON adjacent syntax. And the important part here is the pack format, which is 48, which is for Minecraft version 1.21. And then the description, which is just Datapack template by me, which is displayed in the selection menu. Then pack.png is just my face basically, so nothing really fancy going on there. So let's have a look at data. Now here I have two namespaces. I have the default namespace Minecraft and I have a namespace called namespace. Let's start with the default one, Minecraft. In here I'm only really working with tags, so I'm going one step further down. And in here I have block, entity type, function, and item tags. Let's start with the function ones. There are only really two that make sense here, load and tick. As I already mentioned, tick is triggered every game tick and load is triggered on load in. Let's start with tick.json. If we open this, it's very simple to understand. Basically what it tells the game is to trigger the function main within the namespace, in this case called namespace. If you were to change the name of this folder down here, you would also have to change the name of this part up here, at least if you want to refer to the same function. And all this here basically tells the game is to call this function. You can also add more functions. So you can add a comma, then go in the next line and then use namespace or another namespace if you have more, and then call, for example, main2. It's completely up to you. Load works exactly the same. No real surprises here. It's just called once instead of every game tick. With that, let's have a look at a few examples. So let's start with a block tag, Enderman holdable, which tells the game which items or which blocks an Enderman can actually grab. And I decided to add bedrock to that. So now Enderman can really cause an end in a sense. Just one example. Again, there is a list of tags in the Wikipedia. Entity type, here I decided to add the creeper to the undead mobs. So now when you use a splash potion of damage on a creeper, it's going to be healed instead of damaged. Or item tags. So in this case, I decided to make stone part of the planks, which means that now you can craft beds out of stone. So if you want to go for a dwarf life, that might be the way to go. And with that, we are basically done with the Minecraft namespace. So let's have a look at the namespace. And in here I have a couple subfolders. So I have structure, which contains structure I saved with the structure block. And if I were to use the place command, I could just place this. Well, let's show you this in action. So what I need to do is use the place command, template, and then the namespace. And here you can already see it, arch with lockdown, which we just were talking about. Then tags work exactly the same as before. Now, this time we are not overwriting pre-existing tags, but we are adding new tags. So I'm not going to go into details here, but each of those folders has an example for you to just copy paste and adjust as needed. And then we have in functions, I have 3 functions prepared. I have an init function, which is called during the load in with the Minecraft !load. And since, as I already said, the chat window is not active in the very beginning, I am using the schedule command to schedule a function called init message 1 second after load. At that point, the game is basically running, the chat window is active, and we can see the message actually. The message itself is no real surprise. It's just a tellraw command that gives a little message you may have already seen before. And then we have the main function, which itself is called every game tick via the Minecraft tick function tag. And what this one does is it checks for players that are looking downwards and carrying in their main hand any kind of pickaxe using a pickaxe tag, and tells them, well, that is probably not a good idea. So if I were to actually do that, so you can see I'm looking down, nothing happens. But if I were to grab myself a pickaxe and now do the same, well, now I'm getting spam. So yeah, that is just one thing you can do. So you can, for example, create a menu that is active when you're looking straight up or something in a similar way. And with that, we've reached the end of this episode about Datapacks in general. I hope you enjoyed it. I wish you a nice day, and well, see you.